the coach, says, Larry, what consequences are you ready to administer to the coaching staff if we end the year with yet another hurt quarterback, no Super Bowl to show for it? Good question.
It would definitely have to be how, right? I mean, did the quarterback get himself hurt, or was a poor blocking scheme? If you're asking Ross Dwelley to block Myles Garrett and he blows past him and throws him away like tissue paper and sacks the quarterback, yeah, we're going to have a real hard discussion about that, because that's, in my opinion, negligence. But is it negligence or is it aggressiveness? You know what I mean? If any of the Niner quarterbacks is the starter and all of a sudden, peel off down the middle of the field and try to run over, a linebacker and get dislocated shoulder, I'm not blaming the coaches for that, right? I mean, to give you an example, go back to the Arizona game a couple of years ago when Trey took on Isaiah Simmons at the goal line. If Trey takes on Isaiah Simmons at the goal line, that ain't on Shanahan. You know what I'm saying? But at the same time, if Shanahan tries to block the best defensive ends in the game with Ross Dwelley, that is on Shanahan. And so it really kind of depends on how it goes.
So if Trey gets hurt, it's on Trey. But if Brock gets hurt, it's on Shanahan. I'm just kidding.
But you know what I'm saying? If anybody gets hurt, but they're taking on D linemen and trying to run them over, that's on them. But if the blocking,
didn't you coach him to slide, coach? Didn't you coach him to get out of bounds, coach? I mean, didn't you talk to him about scrambling, coach? Or is that something you told Jeff Christensen to talk to him about? To me, I feel like Kyle Shanahan's gotten a lot of leeway and patience and grace at this quarterback position because he's built a nice roster, an excellent roster, and I give him credit for that. But rosters come and go. They're only as strong as their weakest link on defense. Injuries affect that. The constant is your quarterback. And if this guy has the same issue every single year with the injuries and the rotation, like at what point do we just say, man, you're just not really serious about this position, and we need someone to finish the job here? You're never going to finish the job here. That would be my reaction if there's another repeat of this.
I would say, to piggyback your coach's thought, just take the quarterback injuries out of it. I think this is a Super Bowl or bust year. The 49ers have built a team to win a Super Bowl. Super Bowls are won inside your Super Bowl window. They've been in this window now for 4 years. This would be the fourth year in the window. If you don't get it done, there's no ambiguity. You either do or you don't. And so if they don't get it done, I know that sounds harsh because it's like, whoa, only one team can win the Super Bowl. But the reality is they're built to win. Their Super Bowl window is closing on them. Mm-hmm. I think everybody understands that. And so, to me, in a lot of ways, if anything that falls short of the Super Bowl, we will be questioning. And
football's brutal. You don't know whose last season in the NFL this is. Like, you don't know who's going to get a Weston Richburg injury. You don't know who's going to miss the whole season with a torn ACL. Like, these things happen all the time. It's brutal. So, yeah, this is very much a Super Bowl or bust year. And
I mean, Detroit's early in their window, right? But the Niners are not.
But the thing is, like, they're going to win or lose a Super Bowl based on one of those three quarterbacks in that room. As good as the roster is, it's not necessarily better than it was in 2019 or 2021 or 2022. Like, it's really good, but it's a quarterback-driven league. And Kyle, like, you're over here with a quarterback competition. It's cute.
Well, they've gone there. They've gone their route. They passed on Mahomes. They passed on Watson. They were looking for Cousins.
On Fields.
Worked into Jimmy. Now they've passed on another round of guys. Now they've got Trey. They've got to. They challenge themselves. They either have to develop Trey or they've got to develop Darnold. They got to develop Purdy. I mean, they got an incredibly young quarterback room, and there's 3 prospects there of varying talent levels. Make it happen. Make it happen. You got plenty of talent on this roster on both sides of the ball.
Gizmo Maltese says if Trey can't beat out Brock Purdy, a 7th rounder in preseason, then the hard reality is he's a bust. I like the kid, but how can we deny that? Everything about this comment makes me angry. Well, first of all, he's a 7th rounder. What is he? Is he the guy who would have been the rookie of the year last year or a 7th rounder? Second of all, Brock Purdy probably isn't going to play in the preseason. Third of all, if Trey isn't as good as Brock Purdy right now, he's a bust. We thought Brock is good. Fifth of all, how can you call him a kid and say that you like him? He's like 23, man. 6th of all, thank you for the comment. That was very nice of you, Gizmo. Appreciate you, man. Have a good one. Sorry.
I got to push back on the whole. If it doesn't happen on our time frame, it's a bust.
Right.
There's,
Wait, yeah.
our time frame. I know we all want it, and we can put down this and that, and this date and that date. I think if you're going to really be honest, I mean, you draft. I mean, it's like anything else. If you drafted a super polished guy, that's one thing, but you didn't.
Right.
You
No.
drafted a super raw guy. So
Yep.
to have these really short term,
Thank
if
you.
it's not this, then he's a bust. If
Thank
it's
you.
not that, then he's a bust. Guys, I think we just need to back off. I personally, I have confidence that Trey's going to get there, but I don't have confidence that he's going to get there on my time frame or the Niner
Thank
time
you.
frame. I think he's going to get there. So do you like him? Do you want him? Do you believe in him? Then see this thing to all the way through to fruition. And
Right.
you know what? Somebody's going to get healthy and play well. It's probably going to be Brock at the beginning of the season, but it's a long freaking year. And there are guys that improve. I mean, Josh
if
Allen
Brock has one
is proof of
setback
it.
in the next 2 months, then it's Trey starting week 1, and Brock will have to. I mean, either way, yes, he's getting his chance.
Josh Allen is a lot better today than he was
at 22.
in year 1 and year 2.
Yeah.
So if you get, to me, what's worse, that Trey doesn't beat out Brock in the preseason, or that you move off of Trey and he becomes a junior Mahomes?
That's catastrophic. That's catastrophic.
Then that's regime change time.
No, absolutely. Josh Wyatt says, is there a guy available that is top 5 in the history of the modern NFL in comp percentage, rating, and win percentage? Because that's the production they need to replace if they're going to run the dink and dunk Jimmy Garoppolo offense. So now are we rewriting history that Jimmy Garoppolo is tough to replace? I think the thing with Brock is that we saw he can actually replicate Jimmy's numbers for a fraction of the price while running around. So maybe Brock, right?
I mean, you're saying what quarterback in history threw underneath a lot and also won a ton of games? Is that what the question is?
Jimmy.
Steve Young.
Jimmy
Steve
did.
Young. And by the way, if you have McCaffrey, why wouldn't you throw it underneath?
He's saying, I'm not saying Garoppolo's good. It's just if that efficiency wasn't good enough, maybe it's time for a different offensive philosophy at quarterback. Well, I thought that was the whole thing. Like, they had Jimmy for 4 years. They got to look. They wanted Trey, a different skill set, to your point. Then they got impatient, to Larry's point. And they, to me, sort of pivoted back to their comfort zone, which is Brock, who isn't exactly like Jimmy, but their passing charts are similar. And Kyle can call a similar game for Brock that he would call for Jimmy, just with more play action, which makes Kyle even happier. So, yeah, maybe.
Just look at it this way. They look at Mahomes and they look at Allen and they see guys who can succeed from the pocket and extend plays with their athleticism and make big plays with their legs and arm strength in those cases of Allen and Mahomes. I think that's what they're looking for. So but still think about that. They want a guy who can play from the pocket and something. But playing from the pocket, they gotta have. You can't win in the NFL if you don't play from the pocket. Now you got to play from the pocket, and
yeah.
That's what Mahomes does. That's what Allen does. That's what Burrow does. That's what Hurts
and that's how they build Trey Lance at first. Remember when they drafted him, they were like, "Look, we want to develop him the right way." But then when he got injured, all of a sudden they started using the term dual threat. They never used the term dual threat when they drafted him or sat him in year 1. When he got injured running that zone read, they're like, well, he's a dual threat quarterback who was running. I mean, we had to run him. So my question is, how much did he even want Trey Lance to? How much did he even want Trey Lance? Like, I don't think Kyle Shanahan likes dual threat quarterbacks. He had RG3, who was frankly a better dual threat quarterback prospect than Lance. Second pick in the draft,
better
Heisman
runner.
Trophy, 4.3 speed. A lot of passing reps and production. Kyle was always reluctant with him. And his idea of coaching him was saying, okay, you can throw a little bit, but essentially you have to run a lot. And then he got hurt. And then he was like, well, now you can't play quarterback anymore because you can't run anymore. I'm just curious as to how Trey ever got on this team, but that's a story for another day. And I guess we'll never know.
Grant, I think it makes sense when you look at the logic. Okay, the Niners are a run-heavy scheme that requires their quarterback to make certain efficient throws from the pocket. Look at what Trey did at North Dakota State. He played under center, play action game, heavy game plan, and they ran a ton. It was like 45 runs, 15 passes. So it was a run heavy scheme. and he had to make efficient throws from the pocket. What Trey did at North Dakota State that I think is encouraging and I think is going to translate once we actually see it on the field and he's healthy is he takes care of the football better than Jimmy. And I think that's why Jimmy was like they were frustrated with Jimmy. Jimmy would not take care of the football. And
but Trey is not a naturally accurate thrower. Trey is not a naturally accurate thrower. And
he's
Kyle
not from the pocket.
Kyle doesn't have the ability to coach that. And what he said early when he got to this team is that he looks for naturally accurate throwers, not guys that have to go to clinics. Trey has to go to clinics, the best clinics, and he has to go the rest of his career. And I never thought that was the kind of quarterback Kyle Shanahan was into. He's into guys like freaking Mac Jones, who are naturally accurate. And I just wonder, he said he liked Mac. He said he liked Mac and Trey. How did he land on Trey? Is it that he changed his mind on Mac, or is it that he met with Mac, they had a meeting, and it didn't go so well? I wonder, because we hear now that Mac's super sensitive and that Bill Belichick told his coaches, you can't criticize him. Kyle's the most negative coach in the league. He doesn't hold back. He's proud that he, takes you down a peg. I mean, ask Jimmy Garoppolo about it. I don't think those two would have mixed. And I think the reason he ultimately picked Trey is a personality thing. Look at Trey.
I agree.
Trey's personality.
He wanted to coach Trey, and he felt like Trey wanted to be coached by him.
Yes. They like each other. I could not see Mac and Kyle. I could see Mac hating Kyle. I could see Mac hating Kyle's guts. I couldn't see them actually getting along. So I think that's what happened. He traded up. He liked Mac. He met Mac, and he's like, oh, this is not going to work. This kid will not let me coach him. Trey will let me coach him. Let's give it a shot. And then he's like, I can't coach this guy. I don't know the first thing about throwing mechanics. Sorry. But there's still time.
The one thing that's a little frustrating to hear is that you're hearing a lot of like, hey, man, you throw the way you throw. Kyle has said that. Greasy has said that. And it's like, it's almost like resignation. Like, we can't help you. We cannot help you.
We thought we could, but we were wrong. Jason Howard says, should we reverse psychology Kyle into playing Trey by saying he can't win with him? Love the shows. Grant, shout out Castro Valley. I love that. I actually want to do an entire show where we just reverse psychology Kyle Shanahan. Tell him what to do by telling him what not to do. I think it might work. I love it, Jason. Papa Phil says, were you at the game when Trey were you at the game? Where are you at the game? Did you see Kyle come onto the field? I didn't. Plus, he played injured Brock last year. Don't remember. I was in the press box.
First half Seattle. Everybody went out there, but it was mostly players. I don't
remember.
I don't remember.
There's also a 2-timeline plan, Wiseman Lance. Yes, absolutely. Essentially what they're saying with Lance is, sorry, dude, you don't fit our timeline. Okay, that may be true, but if you think he's just a bust, you'd cut him. And you're not doing that because you acknowledge, as Larry pointed out, just because he doesn't fit your timeline doesn't mean he won't fit someone else's timeline, and a lot of Hall of Fame quarterbacks started out slow.